Hello, hello, yeah, here everybody. And speaking of birthdays, my son Muhammad here turned 70. That makes me pretty old. 70. Patrick. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about is the first session. Now, everybody has their own way of doing this, but I'm going to talk about my way. And I believe that I want the parent and the child to know what each one is saying about this first session with me. So I have all of them present, the parents and the child, or sometimes it's children. And that part is pretty important. And I will say to them, "Why are you here?" What else would we say? Why? What do you want from me? Why are you here? And they'll say things like, "Oh, I want him to do his homework, and I want her to pay attention to when I talk to her," and especially with adolescents. This is a big one, but younger children as well. Um, and they all have a good reason for coming in their minds. And my response to that is, I don't fix kids. I need to tell you that. That's not what I do. And immediately I have their attention when I say that. And I say, "Let me tell you what I do." And so I'll say, and I'll turn to the child and I'll say, "I imagine you may not agree with me, but I can tell that you don't feel very good about yourself." And and then I'll turn to the parents. I'll say, "One of the things I do is try to help your child feel better about herself or himself." And the other thing is, I imagine, I say to them that I, you don't, let's see, I can't remember what I was going to say. Uh, and I said, the other thing I do is help your child express their feelings about things, something that they may not readily specifically talk about. And that could be the under part of why your child does not feel good about himself or feeling happy in life. And so those are some of the things we do. And I use a lot of expressive techniques to help them with all of this, such as drawing and clay and sand tracings and stories and all kinds of expressive techniques. And that's kind of what I do. And sometimes when we do these things, gradually the child's behavior changes. And we're hoping that that will happen. That behavior will change for the better. And so those are some of the things I do. Now, there are some parents who don't want to do this. They don't want to tell the child what's happening or why they're there, really. If I say to the child, "Why are you here?" they'll say things like, "Because I'm bad, because I don't do anything right." And they have those kinds of global ideas. And it's very important for them to know specifically. And when the parent is not able to tell me or the child specifically, I will then ask the parent to call me. For example, I had that happen with one family, and when the mother called me, she said, what I couldn't say in front of both children was that uh, the boy's father is not her father, but she doesn't know that yet. And I'm sort of like, I don't know how to tell her. And I said, well, I think it's important because my philosophy is always tell the truth. And I've worked with enough adults who did not hear the truth when they were children, and they are still handling the feelings about this. Anyway, so in this particular family, I said, let's all come together in a session and we'll do it in the session. So they came in, the mother and not the father, but the mother and the two children. He was working. And I said, I think your mom has something she wants to tell you about. And she said, okay. And she said, your father to the boy is not your father to the girl. And right away, the girl said, you mean I have my own father? And the boy started screaming and crying. He said, you mean you haven't told me the truth? You haven't told us the truth? He was 11. The girl was 9. And so we all calmed down. And she said, yes, you have a different father. Well, what's his name? What's his name? Where is he? And she said, I don't know where he is. I don't remember his name. It was one of those things where I met him and I just knew him for one day, and you were, and you came along. You don't have, he's not your father. I don't know where he is or even what his name is. And the girl was very excited. She said, where do you think he is? Maybe we can find him. And the boy was crying. You lied to us. You lied to us. And finally, everybody calmed down. And when they calmed down, we began to really talk about all of this, what we could do about it. And that the father of the boy spent every other weekend with him and never invited his sister to go with them. And now we understood. I said, this is reason why you're not invited. And we always do something special separate from them. Anyway, so after all this was out in the open, we began to really deal with the family and some of the things that were happening and the dynamics between everybody. And it made a big difference. I can't tell you how many times I've had similar things happen where parents do not tell the children what's really the truth because it feels too painful for them. And they have feelings about it that haven't been dealt with. So sometimes what happens is that I invite the parents to come in, or the mother, or the father, or both, and work through their feelings about this. I've had um, I've had this happen many times. By the, it's just sort of interesting how it is a situation that repeats itself. So in that first session, back to the first session, it's important that we tell the truth. And I had a situation where the mother uh, said, Her mother was not her mother. Her aunt was her mother, but she never knew until she grew up. She never knew her aunt was her mother. She always felt something was funny and different till she found out as an adult and worked it through. Anyway, the other thing I do in the first session is I do a sort of an intake. And some people work with kids, the intake is done by somebody else, and then they have their first regular session. Well, I like to know the things that I don't like to just read about it. So I'll ask certain questions, and I usually ask the child, I'll say, how's your appetite? Do you eat okay? And I'll say, how do you sleep? Do you have bad dreams? Uh, do you sleep through the night? I'll ask the child, and I'll say to the parent, you can come in at any time and clarify. And this is holds the child's interest. And I'll say, um, do you have your own room or do you share your room? That kind of thing. I do a whole intake that way, find out about their, if they have animals or how they feel about school, things like that. We do, that kind of an intake at the first session as well. Sometimes things come up that take a little time, otherwise, we just go through it. Anyway, that's just a little glimpse of my first session. And I'm interested to know what your first session is like. So if we can write that in your chat, I would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Violet. Does anyone want to say anything about how they do a first session?
May I?
Yeah. Hi, Mazika.
Hello, hello. I'm sending my love to everybody. And Violet, I do miss you. Um, about my first session, I would say that I exactly do the same like Violet told us when I met when I met you for the first time. Like I remember you mentioned that you always meet a child with the parent, and I do this way, and I try to be very authentic myself. That's what I'm always doing, just to be and just to feel the way I feel in the moment. And I always sense that this helps a lot mom to be open. And I concentrate always to both of them. And for me, the reactions of the kid when the mom is talking about the kid is the key of my therapeutic work.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try them to be together. And if I sense that the mom is too much, and I feel like the kid is really nervous or something like that, I interrupt and I'm saying that, I think it's enough. I understand you, and I somehow try to do something different in that moment. I take care of the kid in that way. But for me, the figure in the first session is the relationship of the mom and the kid, and the motivation why they are here, why mom is bringing him or her, and what the kid thinks and feels about this process itself. And it helps me a lot. Thank you.
Mm. Thank you. Mazika, where are you? That's a real background of an aquarium, right?
I know. I am in a heaven tonight. My husband just brought me. I'm in Georgia, But here is one very interesting place in Georgia. I'm on the Black Sea now, and yeah, it was a surprise. I didn't know that, so
Wow.
lucky
Well,
to be here.
well, we're enjoying the background, and thank you for sharing about how you view first sessions, how you assess the relationship between you and the parents and the child, and between them. It's a lot to think about
Yes,
all
and
in
just
one.
one thing,
Yeah.
I will add only one thing that
Hmm.
when I allow, that's so interesting. When I allow mom to be open and when I support with my energy the kid feels it, and that's magical. Even though, for example, the mom is talking something bad about her and she feels me that I am there for her with my energy or with my presence, it's okay for her. She 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 feels this, and um, it's difficult to explain, but I think that my presence and my being with them, both of them, and this openness and this talking the truth helps the kid a lot. So I definitely sense what Violet just told us.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy the Black Sea.
Thank you.
That's amazing. Okay, great. Um, so, Violet, there's also some other pieces, things written in the chat about first sessions. Should I read them?
Well, if you have time, sure.
Okay, I'll make the time because it's good information. Um, Patrick includes both parents, very much like how you recommend, unless there's anger between parents, like in divorce. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Um, Lynn, well, Lynn, you can say. I don't have to speak for you. I'm trying
Yeah,
to summarize a little bit, but
yeah. I just added two other things that Violet has suggested that we do in the first session. And one is to bring up the topic of anger. And I usually do that via the faucet metaphor that many of you have heard me speak about in trainings and that I have presented here on one of the calls back in the spring. And I also ask about trauma, sort of describe what trauma means and give some examples and see if there's been some past or present trauma. And I make that very kind of clear in the first session that those are okay things to talk about and things for me to know about.
mhm. Yeah,
Fantastic.
for
Thank
sure.
you, Violet.
Um, Natalia from the Ukraine is talking about if the mom wants to keep certain information a secret, it puts her in a difficult position.
Okay, so I respond. Uh,
Sure.
Something like that happens, I invite the parent to come in on her own to make an appointment with me, and so that we can decide what to do about the information. So thank you for bringing that up because that does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. And oh, these are really all good. Natalia talks about also to ask about possible grief or changes in school or home or any deaths in the family.
Right. Those are all very good.
Yes. Yes. I know. I mean, okay. So these are there's other good things. This is such an important issue, but I'm going to move on just so we have time for the rest of our agenda. But thank you, Violet, for bringing this up. I think it's always an issue because when you get a new client, you have a first session with them and so and each time it's going to be a little different.
Yes, very good. And thank you, Lynn, for your input because I forgot to say those things. Very
Of
good.
course.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you.